and welcome everybody to Reform Gangsters. And if you like my content, please hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. Also, don't forget to check out my Patreon. I got a lot of videos on there, a lot of really good content, a lot of cool stuff. Check it out. You can go on there for $1 and check it out, and hopefully you'll like what you see and you'll become a main member. So go check that out. There's a lot of cool stuff on there. I know everybody liked mob tours, the tours we've been doing. I'm going to be filming another tour in December. On December 10th, I'll be in Manhattan. If anybody wants to meet us for a cup of coffee or a chit chat, they could reach me at Anthony Ruggiano Jr. at gmail.com. So, if you're interested and you're in the city and you want to say hello, Merry Christmas, I'll be in Manhattan on December 10th, running around Manhattan. I have some questions here that people sent in. How many bars and clubs did your father own and was partners in over the years? My father owned, I could answer two questions here at the same time, because there's another question that says how was it for made guys to get liquor licenses? So made guys really couldn't get liquor licenses under their names. My father and Tony Lee had a Jewish guy named Pacey. That was his nickname. His real name was Robert Tobin. My whole life from when I was born, he was their guy with the liquor license. Actually, even the dry cleaners that my father was on the books with, that I talk about all the time when I was a kid, and the teachers just asked me what my father did for a living, and he said he worked in the dry cleaners. That was actually Pacey's brother that owned the dry cleaners. So Pacey had a liquor license, and he ran the bars for Tony Lee and Fatty Anthony. They literally owned the bar my whole life. My whole life, they owned bars. The Black Magic, they used to name their bars after a lot of Louis Prima songs because Louis Prima was good friends with them. I remember when I was a kid, they owned the Black Magic. They owned the Back Page. They owned the Red Den. They owned Bulldogs. I could go on and on and on. They always had a bar. They literally owned the bar almost my whole life. I would say they stopped owning bars probably sometime in the 80s because my father got arrested. He went to Florida and he owned the bar. He owned the restaurant in Florida that his girlfriend had the liquor license, Josephine. It was her liquor license. But in New York, it was always Pacey's liquor license. So they always owned bars, because you got to understand, even for myself, I hung out in bars my whole life because that was our office. Like, people woke up in the morning and went to the Wall Street and went to their offices in Manhattan. We woke up and we went to the club or the bar. That was our office. So that's why we always had bars, and always the liquor licenses were always under someone else's name. Here's one about Jewish mobsters. Were there lots of Jewish mobsters in your time? Yes, there were. A lot of Jewish mobsters, and some of them were very, very dangerous. Sherry, hey, Anthony. Hey, Sherry, how you doing? Rosanna, I'm first. I'm never first. I don't know, what does that mean? What do you mean by that? You're first in what? Mosey boy, Ruggiano and friends, hope all is well. Yeah, everything's pretty good. Thank you. Francesco, Roxanne Perrette. Hello, Roxanne. Okay. People are saying hello to each other. From Ace, this guy has a great show. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Did Gotti bring down the Mafia? No. The RICO statute brought down the Mafia. John put it on Front Street, but when the RICO statute brought the mob down, that was the end of the mob. When Fonzie, the boss of the Genovese family before the Chin, he was the first test case for the RICO. And I remember like it was yesterday, when he got convicted. We lived on 88th Street, and I remember my father sitting at the kitchen table in his robe with the newspaper, and it was on the front page of the news, and he looked at me, and his exact words were, "It's all over for us." And he was right. The Rico statue destroyed the mob. John put it on Front Street, but the Rico statue destroyed the mob. Was the Chin a better boss than John? Two different types of bosses. One, listen, the Chin walked around with a robe on. The Chin, how he did what he did is beyond me. The guy literally took psych meds, and he wasn't psychiatric. The guy was as normal as me and you. The guy took psych meds. The guy walked around in a robe. The guy peed, and the guy would be talking to you, and he'd whip out his prick and start peeing in the street. I mean, two totally different types of people. I mean, was that classy? I mean, what did he accomplish by doing that all those years? At the end of the day, they knew it was a joke. They knew it was an act, and he died in jail. So all that time he wasted, sneaking around at night, when he used to sneak around and go uptown to his brownstone that he lived with his girlfriend and his other family. Come on. My old man used to tell me all the time that he couldn't believe that other wise guys that were in the Genovese family would be talking to the Chin, and if he thought there was surveillance, he would just whip out his penis and start peeing, and it would splash on their shoes. He told me, my old man told me, I would have never stood for that. They would have had to kill me before I let this guy piss on my shoes. I mean, come on. Everybody wants to say who's better, who's not better, who's better, who ain't better. I'm Sherry. Hey, Anthony, did you ever go out on boats or yachts? Yeah, we had a boat. My brother and I had a boat. It's funny because a lot of guys had boats. A lot of my friends had boats. We had a boat. So this guy owed my brother like $16,000 back in the 70s. And he had a boat on at the King's Plaza. There was a marina up by King's Plaza. And we went there, me and my brother went there. We had to meet the guy at the marina, and we went there, and the guy had no money for us. But my brother, anyway, he didn't owe me the money. He owed it to my brother. And we were on the boat, and the guy's trying to, "Cop, please listen, give me some more time, give me some more time, give me some more time." And I looked at my brother, and I go, "You like this boat?" And he goes, "Yeah, it's nice." And I told the guy, "Well, why don't you just give us the boat?" And he did. He gave us the boat. And we had that boat for a while. We used to take it to Club 80. We used to take it down to Long Island, Club 80. We did a lot of shit with that boat. I'm surprised we never drowned on it, but we did a lot of shit with that boat. We had it about 2 years, and then my brother got rid of it. But we had boats, yeah. Let's see what else we got here. From Ace, did you know any Greeks in the life on Park Creek? We had a Greek with us, Bobby Pole, we used to call him. He was a really tough guy. He was with us for years. He actually got arrested with me on a number case. Yeah, we had a Greek guy with us named Bobby. We used to call him Bobby Pole because when we first met him, he used to work for the phone company, and he used to go up on the poles to fix the phone lines. But he was he was a criminal. He was a stone cold criminal. The Swede. Did I ever meet Roy DeMeo? Yes, I said that many, many, many times. I met Roy DeMeo at the Ravenite. He would pop in and out of there. I've been to the Gemini Lounge a few times. But I always used to see Roy DeMeo when he popped into the Ravenite on Saturdays, always on a Saturday. He would pop in and out. Francesco, did you ever cross paths with Whitey Bulger? No, I never did. He was up in Boston. I never went up to Boston. Roxanne, message of recovery is super awesome. Thank you. I'm coming up on 37 years soon, God willing. Rosanna, Giuliani really socked it to the Jews. Yeah, he really did. He put a lot of my friends in jail. Was this gourmet ghetto? Did you ever work with or have heard any information on the Chinatown criminal organizations. I never, I was in jail with a lot of them, especially in MDC in Brooklyn. I mean, there was a lot of Chinese gang members in there. In upstate, I was with a couple of them upstate, but I never did any business with them. I mean, in jail, I knew them. And in the 70s, when I used to go to Chinatown a lot and eat at this place called the Golden Dragon, it was on Mott Street. The owner, we asked the owner one night to tell us where there was some opium dens, and he laughed and says, "You guys don't really want to go there." But I never did any business with them. But I have met a couple of them, always in jail. Roxanne, that's nuts. I need meds and won't take them. That's a slippery slope. Meds, especially pain meds. I mean, if you need psych meds, you got to take them. You know what I mean? If the psych meds and you got some issues, take them as prescribed. Pain meds, that's a slippery slope, man. That's a slippery slope. And Christopher, hello, Anthony. Glad to be alive and sober. Yeah, me and you both, Chris. BCP. Did your father have any cops on the payroll to tip him off of any upcoming arrests and indictments? My father didn't have cops directly on the payroll, but it all went through Sarial, who was with my father. Sarial, for those of you who know, had major connections in the NYPD and the Queens DA's office. A very political guy, and everything went through him. Other times, like when they wanted to arrest me or my brother or something, or they would come and my father would pay them off, stuff like that. But everything really went through Sarial. JB, thanks for the donation. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Were there any made guys you remember who were really naive and weak like Fredo? That's a good question. So when I first started, working in the mob, one of the first jobs I had was I worked in a crap game on Gun Hill Road in the Bronx. And every mob family had something to do with the crap game. And there was this guy up there that looked like a bum. Literally, he was like a bum. He was always dressed sloppy, very disheveled, always looked like a bum. And he used to write numbers. And one day, I was there, we were there, and Freddie Hott was with us. He worked with us. And I told Freddie, like, why is this bum up here writing numbers? And Freddie said, shh, don't say that. He's a wise guy. I said, he's a wise guy? He was a made guy with the Colombo family, so, some wise guys, some people get straightened out, that they don't know how to earn money. They work like Skinny Dom, who became a captain in the Gambino family, was nothing but a pickup man his whole life. He picked up numbers in Staten Island, a bag of numbers in Staten, because in the number business back then, you had pickup men, and it's a couple of different people before it got to the office. So maybe they throw the law off track. So Dominic would go pick up the numbers in Staten Island, bring them to Brooklyn and give them to this guy named Cheech. And Cheech would bring them to the office. Dominic did that for years and years and years. He was a pickup man, but he was capable of killing somebody. He was capable of pulling a trigger. So he pulled triggers, he got made, and later on he became a captain. Not because he was a genius, not because he was a money earner, because he was capable and he was trustworthy, but he got straightened out. Some people got straightened out because they brought a lot of money in. Guys that brought a lot of money in, that were capable of violence, they were the real deal. So yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Francesco, Anthony, is it true that Joe Watts wanted to kill Sammy, Kid Gerard? I never heard that. I don't know. I don't know why he would want to. I never heard that, and I had a lot of conversations with Joe Watson, Sammy, and Gerard. I never heard that story. But I'll if I talk to Sammy anytime soon, I'll ask him. From John, is it true John Gotti had a relationship with one of the Big Wig's daughters? I can't remember if it was Big Paul or Neil. Yeah, he had an affair with Neil's stepdaughter. That's a known fact. But I don't really want to get into that. You know, I was at her wedding. She was married to another guy that was in jail. It's a whole big thing. It's like a soap opera. You know, there's a kid involved, and John's family's involved. I mean, his wife Vicky and all that. And that's I don't really want to talk about a story. I don't really want to talk about that because we were all friends at one time. So I'll leave it at that. What was your father's view of Joe Bonanno? He didn't like Joe Bonanno. After Joe Bonanno wrote that book, he did not like him whatsoever. Giacomo, the 70s and 80s were the best time for mobsters. My godfather, Don Nino Leno, my father always taught me to respect and fear law enforcement as they have the law on their side. Yeah, we respect law enforcement. I mean, up to a point. The Dutchman, Anthony, did you know the guy that killed in the handball court at John Adams High School? No, I don't remember that incident. I mean, that was probably a long time ago. I don't remember who that was. The Dutchman. Oh, I answered that one. Let's see what else we got here. Hold on. From John, what was you and your father's favorite bet at the racetrack? I love the Daily Double. I go back so long that I remember the first day they implemented exacta betting at Aqueduct Racetrack. Like, we went that day when they first started taking exacta bets. I remember like it was yesterday. But my father was really a straight better when he never bet exotic bets. Me, I liked, it all depends. When I go to the racetrack, I try to just bet horses to win. But if I like more than one horse, I'll bet an exacta box or a triple box. But I always bet one horse to win. Even if I bet an exacta or a triple box, the horse that I like the best out of the horses, I'll bet to win. Like, let's say I'll bet 20 to win on the 2 and a $10 exacta box 2-3. You know what I mean? I always bet one horse to win, and then I'll bet an exotic bet. But so that's how we did it most of the time. I really never bet daily doubles. I wasn't a big daily double guy. The Dutchman, Anthony, when your father moved to Florida, what town did he settle in? He was in Miami. He was in Miami Gardens for a while. We had a condo down in North Miami, we had a condo in North Bay Village, right on the water on Biscayne Bay. It was beautiful. So he lived in North Bay Village. Then he lived in Miami Gardens. So that he lived in both of those places back when Miami Gardens was really nice. From Kim Catalano, Anthony, always good to hear your stories. Thank you. Appreciate that. Dutchman, Anthony, I can't believe Skinny Dom reopened Cafe Liberty. I guess he wants to show off his button. Yeah, me and you both. They're living in a time warp. I mean, come on, what, are you kidding me? From Ace, if a made guy wanted money for an investment, would the mob give it to him? Yeah, they loaned them. Of course, people loaned each other money for businesses, without a doubt. East Coast Andy, did you ever have any interactions with Tommy Karate? And was he as dangerous as they say? He was very dangerous. I never had any interactions, but my old man and Tony Lee were very good friends with him. They actually went to his wedding. He killed my friend, Greg. I never had no interactions with him, but he was a sick guy. From Sherry, was curious to know how you felt about Carlo Gambino. Well, I only knew about him through what I heard from Tony Lee and my father. They said he was the smartest guy they ever met. So I have to go by that. He was the boss for a long time. BCP. What was the mob's take on the racial tension back in Howard Beach and Bensonhurst back in the 80s? Not good. Not good. That was a very racial time. Okay. What about football bets? Do you bet straight, under, or parlays? I don't really gamble much now, but because I bet small now, I bet parlays, because I don't bet like big money anymore. But when I used to bet like 500, 1,000 on a game, I would bet just to, I'd just bet a team to win. I want to, because listen, parlays, everybody think prop bets, they're sucker bets. I don't care what anybody tells me. Oh no, prop bets it is for $5, you win 10,000. When you bet more than one team, you have hardly any shot of picking one team, let alone picking two teams or three teams or prop bets. They're sucker bets. They want the bookmakers and all these apps and all these sports books, they want you to bet parlays. They want you to bet prop bets. They want you to. And I know that because I used to be a bookmaker. Jimmy, couldn't any good Big Bow Wow or Pizza City stories? Pizza City, that's where my friends had a big war back there with Banky and Charlie Koenig. I mean, really a bad fight. Banky got hit on the head with a bat. Banky's the guy, as you all know, the guy that killed Anthony Stabile. Banky was a tough guy. He was a gangster. And they had a big fight with him. They hit him on the head with a bat. He wanted to kill a couple of my friends. We had a big sit down in Cafe Liberty. He winded up just taking an apology. He wasn't happy about it, but that took place in the parking lot of Pizza City many, many, many years ago. Okay, let's see what we got here. Francesco, were you close with Gas Pipe or Craig Scarpa? I wasn't close with them. I mean, I met them throughout the years. I met them. I never did any. I met Gas Pipe in Howard Beach many times with Vic. Vic Amuso, I knew pretty good. I mean, he always liked me. He was good friends with Fat Andy and Tony Lee. So I met Gas Pipe with him a couple of times. But I didn't really know them good. Hello, goodbye. They knew who I was. They knew I was Fat Andy's son. That was about it. From Joe Root. Hey, Scott. Hey, what's up? Tony, did you know Peter the Pick? No. From the DeMeo crew? No, I didn't know him. Sorry. I didn't really know many of Roy DeMeo's crew. From Chris, what off-season moves would you like the Yankees to make? Well, I would like to see them sign Bellinger, without a doubt. I don't know why they signed Grisham and gave him $22 million. They could have just threw that money up in the air. That was ridiculous to offer him anything. I mean, that was just didn't make no sense to me. But I mean, they need to get some pitching. They need to get a first baseman. Unless they make Rice play first base on a steady bit. And they need to get a catcher. They need to get a catcher that hits because their catching stinks. The Dutchman. Anthony, do you think when Tony Lee told you to check out the FBI building in Washington, he was trying to discourage you from getting involved in without a doubt. He was trying to get me discouraged to getting into the life. There's no doubt about it. That's why he told me to do that. Matthew. Anthony, did you know Frankie Carbo? Yeah, I met him a couple of times, Frankie. I met him a couple of times. Hold on. Let me see, I got one here. From Gastano, Ozone Park for life. All right, I agree. From Chris, do you wish you took that bricklayer's union job? Well, hey, now I do. Now I do. Without a doubt, now I do. Anthony. Hey, Anthony, sending love from Buffalo. Hey, what's up? Was it true that Greg Scarpa wanted to kill a friend of yours and Fat Andy had to stop it? If so, what was it that Greg wanted to kill your friend for? Yeah, Greg wanted to kill one of my friends. I have to be careful how I say this because there's women involved. Greg wanted to kill one of my friends because one of my friends was having an affair with Greg's son's ex-wife in Staten Island many, 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 many years ago. I'll just leave it at that. From JB, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. I heard Tommy Gambino got made to protect him. Is that true? Did he have a crew? No, he didn't have a crew. He didn't have a crew. You know, I met Tommy a couple of times. You know, I went to see him once on a business deal with me, Angelo Quack and Tony Lee, and he refused to help me. You know, he was full of shit. He was a greedy prick. That's what he was. Ace, what's your favorite old TV show that you watch these days? I don't know. I watch a lot of shows. I started watching Peaky Blinders again. I don't know, but it's not that old. But any old shows from back in the day, I really don't watch many of them. Um, the Honeymooners, I love the Honeymooners. I could always watch the Honeymooners. He's hysterical, Jackie Gleason. Tony, any funny stories about Klugman? You know, he was great. He was a good guy. I said it 100 times. He was really, really, my brother and him really got along great. My brother always loaned him money, and he always paid my brother back for some reason. He was just a really good guy. It's really a shame what happened to him. It really is a shame what happened to him. I want to thank everybody too because I just hit 49,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel, Reform Gangsters. You know, I really would like to get to 50,000 before the end of the year. If anybody's out there that hasn't subscribed yet to my YouTube channel, it's free. Just hit the subscribe button. I would appreciate it because I'm really, really trying to bring in the new year at 50,000 subscribers. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do. Let's see what we got here. Frank, what was Quack really like, despite how he was portrayed? He was a gangster. He was a dangerous human being. You know, if there was no Angela, there would have never been a John Gotti. You know, he was John's right hand man. I mean, he put it all together. You know, John Gotti became the boss to the Gambino family. You know, Angelo put it together. He was the guy out there making the moves. You know, he was a good guy. I mean, I always got along with him. Um, he loved my old man and Tony Lee. Loved him. Loved my old man and Tony Lee. You know, it's funny because when he got arrested on that case that they had his house bugged and he got sort of shelved. I said this once before. He had this kid driving around. He had a van, a white van, and he would sit in the back of the van, and the van would come by Cafe Liberty, and Tony Lee and I would get in the van, and he would be in the back of the van, so the cops couldn't see him. Would take his picture and drive around and talk to him. So he always was active. You know, nothing was going to keep him down. But it's a shame what happened to him. JB, thanks for the donation. Can you tell us the story sometime about Tommy Gambino not helping you? First time I heard he was a prick. Yeah, well, so what happened was, hold on a second. Let me just thank my friend for the donation, Raghev. Thank you. Any funny or interesting stories about Nicky Carrazzo or Jojo Carrazzo? Man, I could tell you stories about them all day. You know, my old man proposed both of them. They knew me all my life. You know, I got a ton of stories about them. You know, if you want to talk privately about them, contact us and we could set something up. I mean, because I could talk about them for hours and hours and hours. The story about Tommy Gambino. So this guy comes to me that had a route of dress factories. He picked up dresses. He had a route, and Tommy Gambino's company Consolidated bought up all these routes, and he lost his route. So he came to my house in Lindenwood, and he asked me if I could get the route back. He would give me and Tony Lee $1,000 a month, which was a lot of money, back then. This was in the early 80s. This is right when John became the boss, like he just had become the boss. So we made an appointment to go see Tommy Gambino, and Angelo was the captain then, because John had just become the boss, and he made Angelo a captain. And so we went to his office. Angelo, Quack, Tony Lee, and myself. We go to his office. They introduced me to him, Fat Andy's son, and he's praising my own man. Oh my God, your father is a man. My father, Carl, loved your father, and and he's praising Fat Andy, like praising him, right? And then after all that fluff was over, we got down to business. And I explained to him, this guy's got a route. Consolidated bought all these routes. They glommed his route. Could we have the route back? Because, we stand to make some money with the guy. And he looked at me and he says to me, I really wish I could do that. But if I give you this route back, what do I tell the next guy that rings the bell? And the three of us were like taken aback by it, like we never in a million years thought he would say no, because John had just become the boss. Angelo was a captain. They just killed his cousin Paul. And Angelo says, well, what would you tell them? You would tell them that you gave the route to Fat Andy's son, who's doing 40 years in prison. That's what you would tell them. And he said, I can't do that. I just, it's going to open up a can of worms. And when word gets out, everybody's going to come ringing my bell to try to get routes back. And I can't do it. And that was it. Tony Lee was livid. We got in the car and he was screaming. He was livid. Like that Tommy told us no. He was out of his mind. Tony Lee screaming at Angelo. I forget it. He was just like, I think he really just wanted Angelo to tell Tommy, listen, you're going to fucking do it no matter what. You know what I mean? And Angelo didn't do that. So that was my little story about Tommy Gambino. David, thanks for the donation. I appreciate it. Hey, Mr. Ruggiano, did you know Tommy Negro from Arthur Avenue, also Rocky from Mulberry Street? God bless you and yours. I didn't know Tommy, but I knew Rocky. I knew Rocky from Mulberry Street. That was from back in the day. From Derek. What's up, Anthony? How did your father and Tony Lee really feel about Paul, Tommy B, and Jimmy Brown? Were there any major captains they didn't care for? Yeah, they never really cared much for Jimmy Brown. They really didn't care much for Paul. Tommy Bilotti, they liked. Tommy Bilotti, when I was in jail in the 70s, in 1979, I was in Arthur Kill Correctional Facility in Staten Island. And Tommy Bilotti had a restaurant bar up the road from the jail, and all the COs stood in there. And he hooked me up big time. He looked out for me. He really, really looked out for me, Tommy Bilotti. Like, he really took care of me when I was in Arthur Kill. So they really liked Tommy Bilotti. From Chris, Anthony, what was the worst day you had in the life? Probably when I got locked up for my brother-in-law's murder. That wasn't really a good day. From Ian, hope to meet you in Florida next year. I'm here, buddy. I'm here. I was on the beach yesterday. From Ace, did you ever meet Frank Collada? Love that guy's show. Maybe, no, I never met him. From Adam. Rouge, we love you, boss. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate that very much. Let's see what we got here. Did Fat Andy have a brother named Mo Black? No, that was why. I think Henry did that to annoy my old man, because my old man never liked Henry Hill, and he abused him a couple of times. And I think he did that knowing that my old man would not like that. I know he had to mention my old man's name in the movie somewhere, because my father and Tony was so entwined with that crew, with Paulie Vario's crew, for years and years and years and years. They did business together. They had dice games together. You know, Tony Lee and Fat Andy's crew bought hijacked loads off Jimmy, you know, that probably Henry had a piece of. So I knew he had to mention my old man's name somewhere along the way. And instead of him saying Fat Andy and Tony Lee, he put in some bullshit about Mo Black's brother. Bullshit, nonsense. I think he did it on purpose. My phone froze. Well, Anthony, was it true that after Paul Castellano was killed, that Joe Tadero Sr. was furious and wanted to have John Gotti taken out? I heard Paul and Joe Tadero were good friends. I don't know about that, but Joe Tadero was really a good guy. I knew him pretty good. He used to come to my old man's restaurant almost every night in Florida with his cigar, and he was a great guy. Joe Tadero, he really liked Fat Andy, let me tell you. He really liked Fat Andy. From Chris, Anthony, do you feel you were a better gangster in recovery or while using? Oh man, I was better when I got clean. You know, it was good. It was, you know, in the night, you know, after I got clean from 88 to, you know, 96 when I went to jail, between them 8 years, I made more money on my own personally than I made in my whole life. And that was only because I was clean. From Victor, know that gambling is legal. Do you think Donald Trump should pardon and expunge all convictions? I don't know what Donald Trump should do. From Carmine, Anthony, did your father know Joe the Cat and my friend Joe Buddy LaForte? Of course. I worked for Joe the Cat. I worked for Buddy. I knew all of them. Eddie, Buddy, Joe. I got arrested in 1974 in Joe the Cat's number office. He was the controller. We worked in the office. I know Joe the Cat since I'm a kid. And Buddy had the cafe right across the street on Mulberry Street from where I got locked up. I think it was 101 Mulberry Street. It was right across the street from the building I got locked up in 1974. That was the first time my name was ever in the newspaper. Let's see what we got here. Chris, were you nervous about getting drafted during the Vietnam War? You know what? I wanted to enlist during the war, but in the Navy, but my old man had other plans for me. He was going to send me to Canada, Montreal, but thank God I got a high number in the lottery, so I never got drafted. But it was a concern of mine. Chris, God bless you, Anthony. Have you been following? I've been following you since the beginning. One day at a time. Huge fan. Chris from Brooklyn. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. Okay. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm going to probably do another live the night before Thanksgiving on Wednesday. Talk about the holidays, how the mob celebrated the holidays. You know, Wednesday night before Thanksgiving is a big party night. You know, it's like New Year's Eve. So I hope everybody tunes in. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet to Reform Gangsters on YouTube, please do. I'm really trying to hit 50,000 subscribers by New Year's. So whatever you can help me with, I appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And please, like I said, if you like my content, hit the subscribe button. And don't forget also, check out my Patreon. You know, you can go on there for $1. Check out what I got there. I got a lot of really cool videos on there. And I'll be in New York on December 10th. I'll be in Manhattan. So if anybody wants to meet and greet, you can contact me through Anthony Ruggiano Jr. at gmail.com.